Hello. Yay. Welcome to the Easy Weeknight Meals webinar. Very excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be here with me. And we got a pretty packed webinar. As I said in my emails, there's a lot to cover. You know, it seems like such a simple question of why is it so difficult to get nourishing meals on the table every night. It seems like such a simple question and should be such a simple answer, but there are a lot of factors that go on behind it and a lot of factors that go into it. It's not as simple as, eat more vegetables or get a meal plan together. There's actually quite a strategy and a recognition that there's a lot, it's not a lot of work. I mean, I'm not going to say there's a lot of work, but that there is a shift, that there's a big shift that happens between when you are used to leaning on processed food and kind of working with packages and things like that versus when you're working with real foods. So there's just a shift that happens. So there's a gap between here and there. And to make that shift takes a little bit of time. So it's important to recognize that you just need to take a deep breath, and give yourself some compassion and have some patience with yourself in making that shift from processed food to real food. And that's what this webinar is about tonight, is how to get easy weeknight meals on the table every night. And by easy weeknight meals, I mean meals that are nourishing, meals that are focused on seasonal vegetables, meals that are so good that your family really wants to eat them. It isn't like I have to, So that's the kind of meals that we're talking about tonight. And that's why I'm so excited about this webinar. So I've got a presentation for you, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just jump right in, and we'll start with that. All right. Go ahead and pop any questions in the chat that you have as we go along, and I'll address them. I'll address them as we go through this. And also, if you're coming in on a replay, then I will address them by email or by whatever manner you left your message. So good. Again, glad you're here. All right, we're going to jump in. So how to plan, prep, and cook easy weeknight meals. You're going to get a lot out of this webinar here. You're going to walk away from this webcast with more awareness of why you eat the way you eat, which is important to understand in this whole big picture. You're going to walk away with the belief that you can enjoy wholesome, nourishing food every night of the week. And you're going to walk away, probably most importantly, with a foolproof approach to planning, prepping, and cooking healthy seasonal veggies for the week, and some free resources to get you there. All right? So first, we're just going to start out with a little of my background here, because I am like most unlikely person in the world to be talking about vegetables and talking about getting vegetable meals on the table. I'm Leah Huber, and I'm the founder of Nourish Evolution and the creator of Cook the Seasons. And I've been a writer for Cooking Light, and Health, and Better Homes and Gardens, and all kinds of magazines, and also a media personality for almost 20 years now. But what I want to do is I want to take you back. I want to take you back to about 20 years ago. I was in my 20s, and I was always in pain. I was in such bad pain that I couldn't twist the top off the toothpaste cap. I couldn't twist the toothpaste cap off the toothpaste. And I would sit there at my desk job, and my knees would just be throbbing, and I'd be thinking, what is wrong with me? I had no energy, and I was always about 20 pounds overweight, just always battling those 20 pounds. And everybody around me, in my 20s had all this energy and all this vitality, and I was kind of going along with it, trying to pretend that I did too, but really I just felt horrendous. And then in my late 20s, shortly after I got married, I was diagnosed with lupus. And then a year later, I was diagnosed with a very rare and deadly pre-cancer. And thankfully, they caught it before it actually turned into cancer, but it was a really bad scare. And it left me thinking, something's got to change. Something is not quite right here. And I'd already begun writing for these health-oriented magazines. I thought I had it all dialed in, but I really didn't. So I thought something's got to change. So I started asking for more nutrition-focused assignments so that I could go to the experts, in what to eat, and ask them specifically, what am I supposed to be eating to nourish my body? And it did not matter whether an expert was in Europe, in Greece, or here in America, or what coast they were on. I kept hearing the same thing over and over again from these scientists and these researchers who had been researching that particular question, that very question of what should we eat to nourish our bodies for, they'd been researching it for 20, 25 years. And the answer that I kept getting was eat a lot of vegetables. Have your diet really focused on vegetables, cooked with healthy fats, which to me was a what? You know, I'd grown up in the low fat era, so that was just a crazy thing for me. But cooked with healthy vegetables, cooked with healthy fats, and served with whole grains and some protein to kind of round it out. You know, rather than having a steak or a piece of chicken or a piece of fish at the center of the plate, have the vegetables be the center of your plate and round it out with some steak or chicken or beef or whatever. I guess beef is steak, steak or chicken or seafood or whatever you like. But that was their message over and over and over again. And P.S., they also actually included enjoyment in the formula that they were giving me. You know, they said, enjoy this meal, enjoy it alone with yourself, enjoy it around the table with your friends. Just make sure that enjoyment is a piece of this meal too. That is a piece to overall health and well-being. And this was all just pretty revolutionary for me. I mean, this was, 15 years ago or so now. So this whole Mediterranean diet, that was actually the research that they were uncovering. So that was fairly new research that was coming up. And this was in the middle of the low fat era. So saying eat healthy fats and use them to make vegetables taste good and actually healthier for you was pretty revolutionary. And for me, the big aha and the big uh-oh was the fact that vegetables kept coming up, because I hated vegetables. Hated them, hated them, hated them. I grew up in the Midwest. I was a meat and potatoes girl all the way. And so getting more vegetables on my plate was not something that I knew how to do or that I was thrilled about doing. But having gone through the health scares that I did, I knew that I had to figure it out. I knew I had to crack this nut. So I gave myself time. On New Year's Eve one year, New Year's Day, actually, I wrote in a journal and I said, I'm going to give myself a year to figure out how to make these foods, these vegetables, these healthy fats, these whole grains, how I'm going to make these foods taste in a way that I'm going to crave them for the rest of my life so that I don't feel like I'm resigned to having to, eat plain salads and steamed broccoli for the rest of my life, because I just knew that I wouldn't. So that gave me the freedom to be able to explore new foods without pressure and to be able to re-examine the foods that I thought that I knew really well. And I ended up losing that 20 pounds forever. I ended up, my lupus diagnosis was actually reversed to fibromyalgia, which I still deal with, but it's much, much easier to handle now that I eat the way that I do. And I have more just vitality and energy and passion and focus at, in my mid 40s than I ever did in my mid 20s. So I can say for sure that this whole thing, this whole Nourish evolution really works. And in fact, Nourish evolution, the story that I just gave you is actually my Nourish evolution. And this is why I named my company the Nourish Evolution, because I've identified 5 steps that everyone seems to go through when they're making the shift from processed food to real food in real life, right? And so I just walked you through my steps, and I'm going to tell you what the steps are in the Nourish Evolution, and I'm curious to know where you are. So Blissfully Blind Prairie is where you're just eating whatever you're eating. For me, it was the meat and potatoes girl, eating Cheetos, eating McDonald's, eating whatever I wanted to eat. I had no idea of its impact on my body, impact on the environment, any impact whatsoever. So that's Blissfully Blind Prairie, when you just don't know any better. And then we have the pinnacles of should angst. And this is sort of your first time when you hit a little mini wall and your head gets pulled up and you're like, whoa, if I stay on this path, it's not going to lead to a good place. So you realize that you've got to shift courses, you've got to change courses, but you really don't know how yet. So you just grab the nearest fad diet and you you follow that diet, and you might lose a few pounds and you might feel a little bit better and you're like, hey, it's working. And then 3 weeks into it, you're like, dude, I can't eat this anymore. This is so boring. This is so bland. I can't do this anymore. And you fall off the wagon and you crash to the bottom of that, of that valley, right? And you grab for the next diet and you're like, all right, I'm going to try this one. And then you do that and you climb that and you're like, oh, I'm being so strict. I'm being so good. I'm being all these shoulds. I'm doing exactly what I should. And then again, you hit this place where you're like, I can't eat this right for the rest of my life. Ah! And you fall down into the pit of angst. So you're going up and down in these pinnacles of should angst until you hit your hump. And the hump is when things get serious. You know, the hump is when it's not just a couple of pounds here and there. It's not just a, gosh, you know, I should change. The hump is where your doctor says, you know, Leah, you've got lupus, and, you know, your blood pressure is way too high and you're going to have to go on statin drugs unless you make some changes, you know, or you have kids and you all of a sudden are like, wait a second, what's going on here? What are these, you know, what's really happening with food? The hump is something that makes you take a step back and examine what's really going on with the way you eat, you know, and examine how you really do want to eat, and ask the question that I asked of what foods are going to nourish me long term, you know. That's the hump. And you're taking one step at a time, kind of one hand over hand, foot over foot, kind of climbing this wall of your hump, right? Slowly, compassionately, curiously. And when you get past your hump, you see in the distance the land of Nourish. And the land of Nourish is the one, it's like I've just painted for you, right? It's lots of vegetables, really awesome vegetables that are cooked with healthy fats, and they've got whole grains on your plate, and you got some yummy protein there too, and it's just delicious. It's so awesome, and it makes you feel so good. But what's between the peaks and valleys, or the hump and the land of Nourish, is the peaks and valleys of practice. And this is what I was alluding to in the beginning when I was welcoming you guys to this call, is there's a big difference. There's a big journey still between the hump and the land of Nourish. At the hump, you know how you want to eat, but you're still used to the practices that you're bringing out of those pinnacles of should angst. You know, you haven't yet learned the practices of how to live in the land of Nourish. You haven't quite learned how to cook with whole foods yet, how to wrangle, you know, several heads of Swiss chard, you know, what to do with a bunch of broccoli, you know, how to make eggplant taste different every time you cook it. You haven't learned these things yet, and that's okay. That's what you do in the peaks and valleys of practice. And those are sort of gentle hills that start off a little higher and a little deeper, and they kind of flatten out as you get to the land of Nourish. And then you know what to eat, what's going to really nourish your body, and you know how to make it work in your everyday life. So that is the land of Nourish. So that's where we're going to lead you today, is to the land of Nourish. So we all know that this is kind of what it tends to look like, right, in the peaks and valleys of practice. So between the hump and the land of Nourish, things can look like this, where you've got these amazing intentions, right? You're going to have that kale salad on Monday, and the roast chicken with Swiss chard on Tuesday, and the wheat berries with grilled eggplant on Wednesday. All these things look awesome, right? So we start out our week with great intentions, but then this is what happens. Like, oh gosh, oh, late meeting. Whoa, I forgot about that soccer practice. Uh-oh, I gotta work late, right? And this is what it looks like, and you're just like, God bless it, man. It just all goes to, and this is who we call, right? We all know where that leads, totally. So this is kind of how we end up looking at the end of the week, right? It's super frustrating. It's like we've got these great intentions, but we just don't know how to get there. So that is why I'm going to introduce you to Nourish 123 today. This is the formula, the approach that has really worked for me and helped me not only get to the land of Nourish, but also stay in the land of Nourish. All right? So first, I want to talk a little bit about mindset. And I talked about how there are a lot of forces that are informing what we're choosing to eat and what we think about food. So it's really, really important to realize that here in America, we are bombarded with constant messaging that, you know, says that cooking wholesome meals on a regular basis, that it's a chore, or it's an unrealistic expectation, or it's some foodie pursuit. And yes, I'm putting quotes around the word foodie. You know, it's some foodie pursuit, but it's not. It's really, really not. It's your right, you know? So here's your question. Here's my question for you. How do you feel about food? You know, just take a moment. You could take a moment now, take a moment after this webinar, but just reflect on that. You know, reflect on how you feel about food. What are some of the baggage and some of the conversations that you're carrying into your week or into your dinner time that you're telling yourself about food? Are you telling yourself it's not possible to cook meals every night? Are you telling yourself you're too busy? And I get it. I totally get it. And I believe that you're busy, and I'm busy too. And so many people are so busy nowadays. But unless we can give ourselves permission to actually believe that we can eat the way that we'd like to eat, It's not going to happen. No matter how good of a strategy you have, no matter how much time you have even, you can sabotage yourself into believing that you can't. So I want to ask you what baggage you're carrying into the way that you feel about food. And then I want us all to hit the reset button right here. All right, so after you've thought about how you feel about food, just hit this reset button and say, you know what? From now on, from here on, I'm going to go forward believing that cooking real food every night is a real possibility. All right? Okay. And it's an enjoyable one. I forgot about that. So here's why it matters. Because when you're eating real food, it can decrease your risk of cancer. A vegetarian diet may actually reduce risk of cancer by 40%, whereas regular meat consumption can increase risk of colon cancer by 300%. It can decrease risk of heart disease. A vegetarian-based diet may actually reverse hardening of the arteries. And I'm not talking a vegetarian diet, I'm talking about a vegetarian-based diet. So even if you're not going totally 100% vegetarian, I actually eat meat as well, but much less of it than I used to. But eating a vegetable-based diet may actually reverse hardening of the arteries, and it definitely contributes to regulating blood pressure. It can also decrease risk of diabetes. So enhanced with whole grains, so vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, smartly sourced proteins, all of that packaged together can actually help to prevent type 2 diabetes, and it may actually reverse it. And it can decrease chronic pain. This is something that I've experienced. Vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, they're abundant in antioxidants, which protect the body and reduce inflammation. So that helps alleviate chronic pain like it did for my fibromyalgia, like it does for my fibromyalgia. And it can also help you get to and maintain a comfortable weight. So learning how to love a plant-based diet will get you to a comfortable weight, and it will keep you there. Because when you're focusing on vegetables, vegetables are very calorically non-dense. There's not a lot of calories in vegetables. So your plate as a whole is lighter in calories. You're eating more healthy fats, so those are calorically dense. There's more calories in fats. But as a whole, you're eating a lot more food and getting a lot less calories from it. Notice what I'm not saying though, right? I'm not saying eat boring plain salads and steamed broccoli. That's not how we're going to get our vegetables. That's not how we're going to get our vegetables. These are the kinds of meals that I'm talking about eating, all right? The ones that indulge in fresh, seasonal produce, and these dishes that you end up craving more than pizza. So now the question is, how? How do you make this happen every single night, right? So this is where we get to Nourish 1, 2, 3. So normally when we're cooking for the week, it's kind of a scattershot approach, right? You're like, all right, I'll make broccoli tonight, and I'll make, I've got tomatoes in the garden, I'll make those, and then I've got, I'm gonna make some green beans, and then I'll make some eggplant, and it's total scattershot approach, right? But that's been proven time and again, and time and again, and time and again, and I'm sure that you can relate to this, that it just doesn't work, right? Right? Yeah. So after years of struggle, years of trial and error on my part, I found a system that does work. And this is what I call Nourish 1, 2, 3. And it's an easy, flexible way to put more veggies on the plate. So I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to explain what Nourish 1, 2, 3 is here. Nourish 1, 2, 3 is based around the concept of core recipes, which are simple recipes with just a few ingredients. So it could be things like melted summer squash, or sticky sweet green beans, or I'm trying to think of some other ones, sauteed corn with shallots and tarragon. Okay, my mouth is starting to water. With just a few ingredients. And then those core recipes get turned into reinvention recipes, which use the leftovers of core recipes in completely new spins. So the idea is first of all, you pick a core seasonal vegetable and you pick your vegetable recipes. All right, so we've got, here I've got my core recipes are garlicky spinach and Alberto's marinated grilled asparagus and real easy roasted ratatouille. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then second, you pick 2 to 5 core protein and whole grain recipes to mix and match with your veggies, right? So you'll see down there on the bottom, we've got the core recipes we just talked about, the core veggie recipes. And then up there on the top, we've got all-purpose lentils, and we've got chickpeas, sauteed chickpeas with blistered scallions, so good. And to the right of that is grilled chicken paillard. So then you mix and match. So actually I'm gonna go back one. Well, let me go back one. There we go. So now we mix and match these dishes for the first couple of meals, okay? So one meal I might have those chicken paillard with the real easy roasted ratatouille and the chickpeas, for instance. That looks awesome to me. Another one I might have the lentils and the spinach, just straight up. That looks really good too. Or I might have the asparagus and the chicken and the lentils, right? So you mix and match for a couple of meals there, and then your number 3 is reinventing. So then you're making quick, nourishing meals by reinventing leftovers throughout the week. So up there on the left, the upper left and the upper right, you can see I use the garlicky spinach in both of those recipes. The one on the left is clams with bacon and garlicky spinach, and the one on the right is a tortilla pie. And with the asparagus, we make pasta with prosciutto and asparagus, which is really good, and a lemony cream sauce. And on the bottom, we do a really easy asparagus with poached eggs and crispy prosciutto, which is awesome. The real easy roasted ratatouille we make into tostadas down there. We make the lentils and the chickpeas into a really, really, really good Middle Eastern salad with lentils and chickpeas. So all so super good. And then we map it out. Now this is actually, I have to say, it's a kind of an old school meal mapper. This is what we started with Cook the Seasons, with my program Cook the Seasons. Now everything in Cook the Seasons is actually all automated, so you don't see this anymore, but it still helps to identify or helps to walk through the concept and thinking through your week. So, you've thought through what your core recipes are gonna be. You have your vegetable core recipes, and then your grain and legume and protein recipes there. So you capture all of those. And then you've got your reinvention recipes that you're gonna make with those core recipes. So everything is really captured kind of loosely on the left-hand side, right? And this is really just still thinking, free thinking about what you wanna make for the week. Nothing is planned yet, because that's really a separate step. And it starts to get a little stressful if you try and plan and choose things all at the same time. So instead we just go one at a time. So we take our core recipes, we take our reinvention recipes, and we plan them out day by day of what we're gonna prep, what we're gonna make, and what we're gonna eat. And what this looks like is like Saturday, Sunday, like I talked about, you cook and prep your core recipes over the weekend. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's when you reinvent throughout the week. So this is what it ends up sort of looking like. Do a lot of prep and cooking on Sunday, for instance. And then Sunday and Monday and even Tuesday ends up being those mix and match recipes. And then really Wednesday through Friday, Wednesday through Saturday, those tend to be more of the reinvention recipes. And you can also pull some great ideas for breakfast or ideas for lunch out of this, but the idea is you start with your vegetable. You start with your core vegetable recipes, and then you move on to your core grain and legume recipes. And then you pick your reinvention recipes based on the core recipes that you made. And then you map it all out and you're all set. So that is the basis for Nourish 1, 2, 3. So now, the challenge is to now do it. So what I'm gonna do is I would love for you to download the Declaration of Evolution, and I can send you an email with the links for this. The Declaration of Evolution, which really helps you get into the mindset that we were talking about, where you're believing, you're telling yourself that you really can eat this way. The Nourish Evolution Trail Guide is also a fantastic way to really dig deeper into the Nourish Evolution, to dig deeper and identify where you are and learn what hurdles are ahead of you and how to move from stage to stage in the Nourish Evolution. And also we've got Cook the Seasons coming up. In the meantime though, if you would like to, I would love to offer you Nourish 1, 2, 3, which is our awesome book. It's got 55 mix and match recipes and reinvention recipes, mixture of core and reinvention recipes, and goes much deeper into the whole Nourish 1, 2, 3 philosophy. What I'm going to do is I am going to post this link to Nourish 1, 2, 3, and if you use webinar as the coupon code, you will get $5 off. So go ahead and jump on this if this is something that you'd like to do. And cool. There's the link. So if you want to buy Nourish 123, go grab it. Enter webinar, all caps, in the coupon code for $5 off. And really hope to have you get that and have that serve you. And I really hope to see you someday and cook the season. So I'll be in touch soon with some more tips, some more advice, some more guidance for getting vegetables on your table every single night. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.